Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is part 2 in our 5-part series designed specifically for members, especially new members that are just starting out in BNI Connect and wanting to learn more about this awesome system that we have. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about really the online slips, recording all of our weekly activity in BNI Connect, and there's a bunch of benefits for doing so. And hopefully today I'll also be able to show you the upcoming new way to be able to input all of that activity online, and that's going to be through your mobile phone. So hopefully at the end of today's webinar we will have a chance to take a quick look at that as well. But before we get started, just a couple of real quick housekeeping tips. First of all, this is a live webinar. So if you're listening to this webinar on the 13th of April 2017, that means that you have the added privilege of being able to ask questions. Whatever questions you want to ask, throw them at me. I'd love to hear your questions. The only silly question is the unasked question. So you ask your questions by typing them into the questions panel. They'll immediately pop up on my screen and I'll be able to answer them as we're going through the material today. Now, we are scheduled for about 30 minutes worth of content. Now, that said, I am always happy to stay here until every single question has been answered. But for those of you that are on a tight schedule and do need to leave right at the bottom of the hour, I will make sure that we get through at least all of the content by then, even though we may stick around a little while longer for those questions. I think yesterday we, in the first webinar, I think we might have had about 10-15 minutes worth of questions. So thank you to all of you whose name I am seeing on the webinar list here for the second day in a row. I really appreciate the time that you're putting in to learn more about BNI Connect and more about your membership. All right, so that said, if you're listening to this webinar in the future, that means that you found our recording. We do record all of these webinars. We make them available in a couple of different places, both on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. Again, that's BNI Connect Global on YouTube. And we also have them on our support site. So feel free to check those out and also to share them with other members of your chapter. So again, today, let's talk about the referral system here in BNI Connect. So I'm going to pop over to BNI Connect here, and as I mentioned this yesterday, this is your home screen. So when you first log into BNI Connect, you'll see all of this great information here on the home screen. It's going to have your My BNI Business Report. Now, this My BNI Business Report, this is a great tool in and of itself. By the way, I am a member. I've been a member since 2002, and it wasn't until 2011 when BNI Connect came out that I actually had access to my own statistics. So before then, I used to have to beg my vice president, hey, can you guys print out the POMS report? We want to see how we're doing. Now I can go in and look this up anytime I want to. This is a great way to find out how you're doing. How am I doing in BNI? Is it working out for me? What do I need to do? What do I need to change? What do I need to improve? All of that is available now through BNI Connect, and it's right here in front of you on the home screen. So this is going to show you your last 12 months of activity as well as your lifetime activity. It's going to show you your referrals received, your thank you for closed business, referrals given, visitors, one-to-ones. Now, if you've been in BNI for a while, those numbers should be accurate. Again, whether you've been using the paper slips or whether you've been using the online slips. There is one big difference, though. There is a number that's new here for you old-timers that have been in BNI like I have for a while. This revenue received to my business number, in other words, that should say, how much money have I made in BNI? Right? That number can only be tracked in BNI Connect. That's not a number that we actually keep track of publicly. That is a number that we will privately track for you as you start to put in thank you for closed business slips. We will keep track. We'll keep a little summary for you and keep a running total through the revenue received to my business. But that number is private to you. Now, down below, we'll have our method of inputting slips. We can submit thank you for closed business, referrals, one-to-ones, and CEUs. We can also track our referrals. And then here's the beauty of it. If you're using paper slips right now in your chapter, every time you turn in a paper slip, you are throwing away a boatload of information. When you input them here online in BNI Connect or again through the mobile app, you are now starting to collect that information for yourself. And what that means is that you can go back and analyze this information later. And hopefully I'll have some time to show you a couple of examples of that as well. So we can review our slips. We also have the referrals that we receive electronically. We'll have that received referrals report. And of course, we can print our activity on a weekly basis. Now, if you're curious as to where these numbers come from and what they do, these numbers do come from the POMS report. So all these numbers up here, they'll only change after your weekly meeting and after your vice president has submit that weekly POMS report. But if you want to see the details of this, you can click on this link up at the top. It says My Personal Participation Report. And that will show you for the past 12 months what was entered into the system officially for you week by week by week by week. So you see it's showing me one full year here, and I can see week by week. So just in case you're new to BNI, what these abbreviations are along the top. A is for attendance. That's really where the word POMS, that's an acronym for the 5 different types of attendance. We have P for present. That means that you were there, you were on time, you showed up and stayed for the whole meeting. That would be P. A is absent, means you didn't show up to the meeting and you did not have a substitute. So A is absent. L is for late, meaning you showed up after the start of open networking or possibly that you left the meeting early. M is medical. Medical leave means that you're going to be out of BNI for an extended period of time, but it will protect your seat and it won't count as an absence. Keep in mind that medical leave does need to be approved by your membership committee. And S means that you had a substitute. So those are the 5 different PALMs, P-A-L-M-S, present, absent, late, medical, and substitute. Now across the top here, we also have some more. We have RGI and RGO. RG stands for referrals given. There's always the 2 sides to a referral relationship, the person that gives the referral and the person that receives the referral, and we are tracking both sides of that. So RGI is an inside referral, a referral given inside. Now an inside referral is when 2 members do business with each other, right? So that means that really the relationship stayed inside the BNI network or inside your chapter. Right? In other words, a member pays for another member's services. Now that's great. We do encourage that in BNI, that we're getting to know each other and hopefully using each other's services. But really the power of BNI is in the outside referrals. And that's when I introduce somebody outside of my chapter into my network. So I'm introducing a new person into the referral relationship. And that's really what we're looking for is those outside referrals, and that's the RGO. So again, RGI, an inside referral given, and RGO is referral given outside. And of course, the other side of that is the person that received the referral, whether that's an inside, an RRI, or an RRO for outside. V is visitors that you've brought to the meeting. One-to-ones, obviously, are those one-to-one meetings that we have. And thank you for closed business is when somebody else thanks you for revenue that you have generated for their business. CEUs, of course, are what we're doing today. Make sure that you put in a slip for a CEU for yourself. All right, so you can review this report, by the way, and see your week-by-week activity. If you go all the way down to the bottom, I didn't mean to close that out so quick. If I go all the way down to the bottom, you'll also see your summary. So you see your full summary here. You'll also see your presence, absence, and lates and everything. And then down at the bottom, your number of members that you've sponsored, as well as the trainings that you've attended over the past year. All right, so that's the essence of the reports. Now, let's take a look at actually submitting the activities. So let's say that you have, you have a referral for somebody. I was at my meeting this week or I was out there networking and somebody needed to use the services of somebody in my chapter. So I made an introduction. So if I have a referral for somebody, I'm just going to click on Submit Referral Slips. Right, so submit referral slips, and that pulls up a electronic version of the, basically the paper referral slip. All we need to do is fill this out. So I'm going to choose the person from my chapter that I have a referral for. So let's say I have a referral for Christy Armstrong, she's the accountant in my group and an amazing accountant. She's a pilot as well, so one-to-ones with her. You get to go on her plane. It's really fun. But anyway, Christy Armstrong, let's say I had a referral for her. My parents, they needed to have their taxes done at tax time this year, so I referred my parents to Christy. Right, and this is an outside referral since it's a relationship other than myself. I gave the card and said that they would call. I can give them the address and the phone number, email address, and any comments. They need their taxes done. Right, so I can rate that referral on a scale of 1 to 5. I'm going to give this one a 3. And down at the bottom, I have save and new, submit, or close. Basically, save and new means that, I've turned this one in, but you know what? I have another referral I need to put in right away. Right? Submit is just, I'm going to turn this one in and go back to my home screen. Close means I'm just going to cancel out of this, and it will not submit the referral, but I'm going to go ahead and click submit. And now, this referral has been passed. Now, the awesome part about this, Christy will receive an email right away saying, hey, congratulations, you just received a new referral in BNI Connect. As a matter of fact, this is what that would look like. So this is a referral that I've actually received just recently. And this was from a person in my chapter, Danielle Anderson, and she introduced us to a new client, the Razy Motorcycle Center. I have their email, their phone number and their address and, all of the information about this. So this was a great referral. I got the notification right away, which means we could follow up on it right away and close that deal. Now, we do have a question here from Kimberly. She says, is it considered a referral if you do an email introduction but no business ends up being exchanged? So here's the deal. Here's the definition of a referral. A referral is the introduction of a relationship, and the bare minimum requirement is that the person is willing to take the phone call from your referral partner or email or whatever. They're willing to talk to them, that they're expecting that sales call, if you will. Whether or not that job closes, that's up to the sales skills, and credibility and everything else of the person that you're referring. But once you have said, once you take that potential client and introduce them to the other person, then that qualifies as a referral. All right, does that help, Kimberly? Awesome. All right, so now I've just submitted a referral. Now the great thing about this is that once I've submitted that referral, I can immediately go and review my referral slips, right? And all of the details of those slips will be captured here in BNI Connect. So by default, it's going to show me the last month worth of referrals, but I could actually go back in time. We started using the system in 2012. It's not going to have anything from 2007, but I could go back and essentially review every single referral that I have passed over the past, really 6 years or so that I've been using the system. So going back to, I guess I passed my first referral here in October of 2012 in BNI Connect when this first came out. And here's the one I just did all the way at the bottom of the list here for Christy Armstrong. Now, one thing you'll notice here as I'm looking at this list is that there's a bunch of different fields here. Obviously, it has the referral details. It was to Christy Armstrong and who it was and what the phone number was that I gave and all of that. You'll also see that there's a couple of fields here at the end, new and draft. And if I scroll back up, there's the tracking sheet status and the POMS status. So you'll see here that we have some that are completed and some that are new and some that are, if I go all the way down to the bottom again, some that are draft. Now, what that means is that, as activity happens, what you're doing is you're queuing that activity up for the next meeting. So that means that, my meetings are on Thursday mornings. So as of the time that my meeting ended this morning, 8:31 a.m. officially, as of 8:31 a.m., everything that I put into the system will be for next week's meeting statistics, next Thursday's meeting, since this meeting has now already passed. Now, once my vice president goes in and records the attendance and any paper slips that were passed and things like that, this will change from draft to completed, right? And then I know that these will now be part of my official statistics. The My BNI Business Report will have changed at that point, and it now counts. You know, the people have already received their referral notifications, of course, but it will count towards the official statistics. All right, so the other side of that referral is once, let's say somebody gives a referral to me and that referral turns into closed business for my business, I want to make sure that I thank them for that business. So for that, I would submit a thank you for closed business slip. And let's say that Janet Burtwell, she referred her next door neighbor to us that needed their computer fixed. So I would put in, this was for $250. This was new business. Tier 1, of course, is that inside referral. Tier 2 is the outside referral. In other words, Jan referred us to her neighbor. And then a tier 3 would be as if her neighbor then referred us to somebody else. We would still go back and give Jan credit for that, for being the instigator in sparking those relationships. All right, I can put any comments on there. The comments will remain private to me and me alone. Jan's next door neighbor. Right. Again, I can do save and new to bring up another thank you for closed business right away, or I can just hit submit. And of course, I can go back now and review my thank you for closed business slips. By default, it's going to give me the last 6 months, but of course, as I said, I can go back and change that to be a different period of time. So here's an interesting thing. Watch this. If I want to find out, where the majority of the money is coming from, so to speak. So who are my best referral sources? So I can go back, let's say a couple of years, click go, and if I were to then sort this, right, so now I can see every thank you for closed business slip I've submitted, which in other words, these are people generating revenue to my business. So if I was to then go and sort this by amount, I could see who my biggest referral givers were. If I was to sort this by thank you to, this would show me who my most common referral givers were, right? So I can go through this list and really start analyzing it. Who are the people that are generating the most money for me? Are they people that are in my contact sphere, for example? I mean, I can see here that Christy Armstrong, she's a great referral source for me. Look at all the thank you for closed business that she's given me. Go through this list. I've got, Shannon Cuthill shows up a lot. Tom Rowland shows up a lot. Charles Westcott and David Nichols. So these are the people in my group that are referring lots of business. These are the people I want to make sure that I am going back to them and saying, you know what, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for all the business that you're turning in. Now, again, if you're just turning in paper, you've thrown all of this level of information away. Only when you put this in BNI Connect can you start to really analyze your membership on a much deeper level. Elena says, should we wait to submit thank you for closed business until the job has been invoiced, or is it okay to submit once the quote has been approved and work is underway? I would say that that's up to you, what you're comfortable doing. I mean, if you have pretty much if you don't have any collection problems with any of your clients, congratulations. That's a great thing to have, great relationship to have with your clients. And if you're comfortable submitting that, thank you for closed business right away, please go ahead and start doing that. What I will say is definitely make sure that you remember to turn in thank you for closed business for recurring revenue, for repeat business. Like for example, my company does a lot of managed services contracts, which means once we get a client, we usually have them for years and years and years, and we're invoicing them once a quarter. So make sure that you're going back, whether it's quarterly or every 6 months or however often. Let's say you're a dry cleaner and people are bringing their stuff into you all the time. You want to constantly be putting that thank you for closed business every time that person comes in and does more business with you. So does that make sense, Elena? Does that help? Awesome. So that's great. You're a service provider. That is, you know, those relationships are gold, and it really is important to keep track of all the revenue, especially that recurring revenue. All right. So the next thing is the one-to-one slips. Make sure that you're submitting your one-to-one slips here as well. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that you also will have a search cross chapter on most of these slips, except for CEUs. But what that means is that you've done business with, or you did a one-to-one or a thank you for closed business for somebody in another chapter. Now, these chapters, it's just within our own regions right now. So, for example, for me, I'm a member in Rhode Island, so I can look for other people here in the Rhode Island and Cape Cod area because that's our region of BNI. But I can't, unfortunately, right now, record a one-to-one or a referral with somebody in Colorado or somebody in Alaska or somebody in Singapore. And that's just a limitation of the system right now. We're hoping to work on that in the future, but for now, it's just going to be people. Now, we absolutely 100% recommend giving referrals to anybody anywhere in BNI. We simply can't record it in BNI Connect right now. So here's what I can do. I can go search cross chapter. And if I did a one-to-one with somebody in my region, I could record that here. So let's say I did a one-to-one. You don't have to put all of the information in, just a couple of letters, and it'll pull up the people in your area. And it was Joe Grimes, another computer guy in another chapter that I have a great relationship with. We do one-to-ones all the time. And of course, we have, where did we do that one-to-one? At Starbucks. And what did we talk about? Me, my favorite conversation. And when we had that was yesterday, and we click submit. Now, the cool thing is it'll show up in both of our reports. We'll both get credit for it in the palms. So only one person would need to submit that one-to-one slip. All right, and of course, it goes into my review my one-to-ones, and the gorgeous thing about this is now I can start to see, okay, well, who have I had one-to-ones with recently? Right now I can strategize my one-to-ones. It's not always just about how many one-to-ones you're doing, but who are you having one-to-ones with? Are you spending your time wisely with the most important people that you need to be meeting with? Because I'll be honest with you, 60 seconds or 45 seconds or however long you have to give your weekly presentation in your chapter, that is not enough time to get to know somebody. You really, really need to be meeting with people, especially people in your contact sphere, those like businesses that you're going to really do a lot of referral business with. You need to meet with them all the time. So keep track of those. And of course, I can go through and review that now and see who I'm having one-to-ones with and make sure that, again, having one-to-ones with the people that matter the most. Okay, if people start passing you referrals in BNI Connect, you also have your received referrals, so you never have to keep track of those slips again. I could go in and review all of the referrals that I have received recently. All right, and of course, we also can track those referrals. So there is this referral tracking system. I can track my referrals received. And of course, this is only referrals that you've received online in BNI Connect. But I can see I have a couple of referrals here. If I go in and look at, let's say, James Basket here, I could click the edit button. I can go in and, for example, go in and change any information. But the most important thing is I can update the status of this referral. If you remember in that referral report, this shows the status. So Stephen Schwartz gave me this referral. If I change this now to closed, that will now show closed in his referrals given report. So now we have a two-way status update between myself and the person that gave me the referral. Right? So it really helps to keep that conversation going. All right, so now one thing that everybody always asks me is, oh, that's all great. I just turned in all these referrals, but what am I supposed to do at the meeting now? Right? And most importantly, how am I supposed to win the door prize if I don't have a paper slip anymore in order to show people that I had a referral this week? Well, one thing that you can do is you can absolutely still print your referral slips for the week. And you do that by going to print your weekly slips. And what that will do is basically give you all of the information that you need to talk about at that week's meeting. The referral slips and the thank you for closed business and the one-to-ones, and of course the referral slip will show us, well, you see that the referral slip here, it prints out a little bit bigger. So you can turn this in for the door prize, right? All right, so real quick, quick poll. We have quite a few people on the call. We have about 3 minutes left. Do you want to see a preview of the mobile app and I can hold off on the questions? Or do you want me to try to get through the questions real quick? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so you guys want to see the, I think it's the mobile app. So hopefully I'll be able to do both. But let me show you guys the mobile app real quick. And this right here, hopefully you can see my screen okay. This is actually my cell phone that I'm showing on the screen right now. And what you'll see is that it's very similar right now to what we have in BNI Connect. We have our last 12 months in activity. If I swipe over, we have the lifetime activity. I also have the ability to turn in slips. So I'll be able to check out my feed. These are, referrals that I've received and given, and I can go over to received referrals as well. I can see all the details of those referrals. I can give somebody a call. Right, if I want to submit a referral, up here at the top, we have thank you for closed business, referrals, for example. I can choose who it's going to, inside or outside, what the status is. And the nice thing about this too is that we can also look through our phone's address book if we have a referral. So let's say I was referring myself to somebody. I could go to my phone book here, look up my contact card. All right, this will bring me into my contact card. I can choose which phone number I want to give them, which email address, which address, and it will fill out the referral slip for me. Put in some comments and click go. Now I'm not going to do that because that is, again, this is in the live system. So, so Jennifer says, my mobile BNI Connect doesn't look like that, and that's because this mobile BNI Connect is the official one and it hasn't come out yet. It is coming out on April 24th. So in just like 2 weeks, it'll be out there. The one you have was made by a member. It's not an official app. I'd highly recommend actually just removing it off your phone. And then in about 2 weeks, April 24th, it's a Monday, you'll be able to download this one, the official BNI Connect mobile app from the app stores. It will be on Android and on Apple as well. So you can also do a visitor invite from here. You can do, some stuff with your profile, not your full profile, but at least change your picture and a couple of other things. And we're going to be developing for this steadily. There's already some stuff that's in testing right now that'll come out just a couple of weeks after the mobile app is released. So that's the quick preview of the mobile app there. Let me get to these questions. We are just about at the bottom of the hour, but just want to start getting through these questions. If you do need to leave right away, again, thank you guys so much for being on the webinar. I really love having you guys here. And as I said, I'm going to stay here until every single question has been answered. But if you do need to leave right away, again, thank you. Just remember, we do have another webinar tomorrow. Tomorrow, what we're going to be talking about is really the I'm sorry, it's not tomorrow, it's on Tuesday. Tuesday, we take a couple of days off. So Tuesday, we're going to be talking about connecting with other members. So how do we use BNI Connect to go and find people in other states, in other countries, and connect with them and possibly even do business with them. So we're going to do that on Tuesday at the same time. All right, so a good referral for me is to, come on over to that one and or please let somebody know about that might need it. All right, so let me go through these questions. I think we have about 7 or 8 questions so far. Feel free to type your questions in, though, if you have any more. All right, Anna says, I prepare taxes, so if you refer to me one client, every time that I do taxes for him, does that count as a referral? So here's there are some differing opinions on this. I'm gonna come right out and say that up front. And for the opinion, I would check with your director consultant, your executive director, for their interpretation of this. So here's my interpretation. A referral is the introduction of a relationship. Okay, so, and you can really only introduce somebody once. Now that means that, you know, if I refer my parents to you to do taxes, the first time that I refer them, that is a new referral, right? So I would get credit as a referral given, you would get the referrals received. Now, you actually do those taxes. You charge them $500 to do the taxes. You would then put in a thank you for closed business for $500 that, you know, thanking me for generating that revenue. Now, next year, you do their taxes again. You already had that relationship, so that to me is not a new referral. However, you charge them $500 again. You would put in another thank you for closed business for me for that $500, right? So I would continue to get quote unquote credit and thank you for closed business, but I wouldn't get referral given credit because they're already your client. So Anna, does that make sense? Does that help? All right, so let's see. Kimberly says, if I'm in a commission-based sales position, is the thank you for closed business amount my commission or the total amount my company will receive? So it is gross receipts to your company. So gross receipts to your company. In other words, a good example of this is a real estate agent, right? Most real estate agents also work for a broker, right? They work at a real estate agency. So let's say that you are a real estate agent. You sell a $500,000 house. The commission on the $500,000 house, the gross commission on that, let's say, is 5%. You would report that 5% in as the thank you for closed business. Now, you may only get 2.5% of that because you have to split it with your brokerage, and you know, maybe you're only taking home 1% because you end up having to, you know, hire additional people and do advertising, do all that stuff. That's all cost of doing business. What we care about when we're doing this is the gross receipts or the gross commissions to your company. So does that make sense, Kimberly? There are some really tricky businesses, by the way, you know, especially banking, that don't really have commission per se, and you know, there are some different interpretations of that. We do have a document that helps some guidelines for that. Jonathan says, although only one person enters the one-to-one, do both get credit? Yes, absolutely. So only one person needs to enter the one-to-one, and both people will get credit for that. And both people will also see it in their one-to-ones report. So actually, this is my live account here. If I go to my one-to-one report, I did a one-to-one with somebody in my region just the other day. His name is Bob Chapman. He's another computer guy up, you know, over the border in Massachusetts, who I had a one-to-one with over the phone the other day. So he actually input that slip in his chapter, but it does show up in my list as well. And we'll both get credit for it in the Palms. So does that help, Jonathan? Dan asks about a list of attendees for the webinar. Unfortunately, I don't have that I can share at this time. You know, Dan, if you're a area director or an executive director or something like that, contact me offline and we can talk about that one. But I don't have one that's readily available for you. All right, so let's see. Janet. Jennifer says, we already answered this one from Jennifer. If you're using some other mobile version of BNI Connect, it is not the right one. There are absolutely zero official BNI Connect apps in the marketplace right now. Once this one is released, we will be starting to remove or asking to be removed some of the other ones that are out there. So Brenna says, is there any way I can show a brief preview of the app next week? Sure, absolutely. Here's what you do, Brenna. Click on the question mark. And by the way, this goes for any of you guys. If you'd like to share this mobile app with the people in your chapter, let them know about it. here's how to do that. So go to this question mark in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you over to the support site. All right. On the support site, you will see a section that says BNI Connect Mobile Support. If you go into BNI Connect Mobile Support, there is a BNI Connect Mobile Getting Started. And right there is a video. It is a little bit of a longer video, so that's about 7 or 8 minutes, but it goes through a lot of different features of the app, and you are welcome to use that to give a brief demonstration. All right, does that help, Brenna? You want me to send you a link to that as well? How about I drop a link in there for you, just in case you need that link. All right. All right. So glad you jumped on the call, Brenna. Let's see. Marie Pierre says, as a VP, is it possible to see all the recommendations which have been made on the last week for all the group? Yes, absolutely. Great question. So as the VP, I usually don't go into this because we don't usually have a lot of VPs on the call, but here's how to check the activity that happened, because the great thing about this, by the way, Marie, is that if your whole chapter is using the online slips or the mobile app, the only thing that you have to do is to take attendance at the meeting. So my chapter is 100% digital, so we can only enter stuff online. So my VP, all they have to do is go in, and if I go to the POMS report, so I go to operations and I go to meeting management, right, and I go to enter POMS for the week, right, let's say actually our chapter meeting was this morning, and I go to enter POMS. Look at this, the POMS report is already all filled out, except for the attendance, of course. So to see what all of this activity is, up at the top there's a button that says Slips Audit Report, and here's where we can go through and review all of that information. So you can see, now by the way, you'll notice that the thank you for closed business here, right? We can't see the details of who made the money or any of the notes from that. We can only see who has been thanked and how much. So that is still 100% private information. Does that give you what you're looking for, Marie? All right, so let's see. Elena says, I'm a business owner and I have an employee also enrolled in BNI in another local chapter. Since both of our seats are enrolled under the company, does it make sense to log his thank you for closed business under my chapter as well? No, absolutely not. You want to make sure that you are only recording it once, because the problem is that what you'll end up doing is that person that generated the revenue will end up getting double credit for it, right? It's going to look like they're generating twice as much money as they actually are. You absolutely only want to record that information once, and it's whoever received the referral directly is the one that is going to want to make sure that they turn in that thank you for closed business. Right? No double dipping. All right. So Renee says, and by the way, Brenna, yes, why don't you give me a call as soon as we're done here? I think you have my number, and we will. I'll get you a copy of the PowerPoint actually that I use for most of these presentations. All right. You are welcome to it. All right. So let's see. Renee says, do you have time to explain how those in network marketing record thank you for closed business? Now, are you referring to for example, maybe something like Mary Kay, that type of network marketing? And if so, what you would do is, if you notice on the thank you for closed business slips, there is those multi-tiered referrals. So let's say that somebody refers you to somebody that starts out. Let's say they refer themselves to you. Let's start it out all the way at the beginning. They refer themselves to you and they start buying some product from you, right? So that would be an inside referral, right? And then you would turn in thank you for closed business, and that is a tier 1 referral, right? Because that is now money that they spent with you directly. All right, now let's say that they love your product and they say, you know what? My sister-in-law, she's been looking for a part-time job and she could probably sell your product as well, right? She's always wanted to be a Mary Kay representative, whatever it might be. So that then becomes an outside referral. So that outside referral, you want to make sure that she records that as a tier 2 referral, and every time that person generates revenue, you want to record that as thank you for closed business, tracing back to the person that referred you. Now, let's say that person now brings in 2 of their friends into your pipeline. That's awesome. That's great. That's what you want, right? So the thing is that you want to record that as what's called a tier 3 referral. And that tier 3 referral would still trace back to your original referral, but you still want to be recording that thank you for closed business, because essentially you probably wouldn't have met those tier 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 referrals without that very first introduction, that very first, tier 2 introduction a long time ago. So Renee, does that help? Does that make sense? Is that what you were looking for? So I don't know if we have time to do it today. I have another presentation that actually I took one of those multi-tiered relationships and traced them all the way back to the very, very first referral to show how they can all kind of blossom out. So yeah, I'd be happy to see if I can find that and pull up the graphic for you guys if you're interested. All right, so Brenna says, what do you do for visitors if they like to pass referrals? Do you have any slips with 100% paperless chapters? Yes, I shouldn't say that we're paperless. That's a misnomer. We're not exactly paperless. We do still have paper at the chapter. We have paper. We have still reams of the actual paper slips at the chapter so that visitors can participate. We still what we've done is we've said that, listen, our vice president doesn't want to go back and have to, basically take all this paper and count it. So you can fill out a piece of paper if you want to, but we're not going to count it unless it's been entered electronically. So the visitors, they can still pass themselves as referral, but we don't mark those in the system anyway, the visitor referrals, because they're not members of BNI yet. So the paper does the visual part of it, but we're not tracking the actual paper. Does that explain it a little bit, Brenna? Does that help? Let's see. Veronique says, we do not have the tier 3 referral type in my sections, BNI Connect. So whatever this marker is here, I mean, it's just a language thing, I think. Everything in BNI is translated into different languages. If I was to switch my language to French or German or Japanese, everything would still be in the same place, but it might be called something different. So I'm not sure if you were to just look at your thank you for closed business here, there is a little button here. I'm not sure exactly what it's called. It might be called a spin-off referral, or what the equivalent in French is. Not really sure, but the concept should still be the same. Does that help, Veronique? All right. I think that was the last question. Any other questions? Any questions at all about referrals or this, or really anything in BNI Connect? I'm absolutely happy to answer any questions that you have. Elena. She says, how do you record CEUs? Really easily. Just go back to your homepage here, click on Submit CEU. Now, again, in US English, you want to use the second form here because it says BNI webinar. But, really, it's really just a matter of approximately the number of hours that you invested in the training. So, this is, we're coming up on an hour here. So we just put in 1 credit and click submit, and then we'll get CEU for this week. All right, does that help? All right, let's see. Kimberly says, if you bring a guest Who does join your group? Where do you record that? That actually gets recorded by the person that's inputting the application, which is either going to be your secretary treasurer or your regional office. What you need to make sure of is you need to make sure that that visitor, when they fill out their application, that they put you down as their sponsor on that application. That way, whoever's entering the application makes sure that they're entering that when they enter it into the system. All right? And Elena, ask me as many questions as you like. This is what I do all day, every day. I answer questions about BNI and BNI Connect. Normally it's through email and, tickets and back and forth. I'm just as happy to answer questions verbally. So, while you got my live attention, feel free to fire away anything you want. All right, now that I've said that, I don't think I see any more questions. So what I'm going to do is just say thank you guys again. Thank you so much. I know you've taken time away from your business. You've taken time away from the phone calls and the emails that you have to return just to learn a little bit more about BNI Connect. I really hope that this was a good investment of your time. Please feel free to, a good referral for me again is if you can get some more people on that webinar on Tuesday. We are going to be talking about connecting with other members. Please help me fill that webinar up. We can fit 10,000 people on these webinars. I've never even come close to that, but I'd love to see more people, and please bring your friends. In the meantime, I hope you have a great weekend and happy connecting.